Hello, my name is Jakob Munck, and welcome to this short video where I want to come with some replies to some of the comments I've had to my videos here on YouTube. And first of all, I want to say that I'm very happy that you write comments to my videos. No matter if you're critical or you're positive or what you are, I like to feel that when I'm making videos, there is some kind of response. I'm not making videos for no one. I'm making videos for an audience. And I don't claim to be without faults. I want to learn something. So if you know something I don't know, please tell me. If you think it's good, please give me thumbs up. If you think it's bad, thumbs down. Please tell me in your comments what you think I can do to make this channel more interesting and more truthful. Well, I do my best. I've studied the subjects that I'm talking about most of my life, so I believe that I'll never be much wiser than I am today. I'm 67 years old, so I don't think I'll be much wiser than today. I have a very good education from the university, and as I told you, I've studied these subjects for a long time. I've read many books and seen many videos and traveled a lot. So I'm not stupid, I know that. But that doesn't mean that everything I say will be understood by you and that everything is correct, because I can make faults. If my sources of information are not correct, then what I'm telling you is not correct. But everything I'm interested in, of course, I've cross-checked it, not just from one source, but from many sources. So I believe I'm on the right track. And here you have my responses to what you are telling me here in your comments. And first comment is coming from someone called Philosophical. Well, I'm a little sad that a lot of the persons commenting on my videos, they don't want to show their names. Why do you want to hide your names? To me it feels like you are some kind in a shame of what you are and what you say, but I don't know. Is it so dangerous to communicate here on the internet that you need to hide your name? I don't think so. So maybe I should just say I don't want to respond to anything coming from anonymous listeners, but that will not be my position now. So Philosophical, I'm quite sure this is a pseudonym, it is a false name. Well, Philosophical, Phyllis, he or she tells me that she don't want to subscribe to my videos anymore. Okay, that's up to you. And you are not able to understand why I live in Denmark, why I'm not living in Russia. Well, I can tell you that very short. The reason is that I am a Dane, I'm not a Russian. That's why I'm living in Denmark. And I'm not living in France because I'm not a Frenchman. I'm not living in USA because I'm not from USA. I'm living in Denmark. My whole family is living in Denmark. I have my son in Denmark. I have my house, my computer, my work in Denmark, everything in Denmark. So I couldn't just move to Russia or any other place. You think that I admire Russia? Well, I admire the Russian foreign policy. I don't like the American foreign policy. I have to tell you that. I suppose you know it already, but it doesn't mean that I admire everything in Russia. For example, I don't agree with the Russian religion, not at all. I don't understand the Russian language. There is a lot of things in Russia that I don't understand. But I've been in Russia several times, and I have many Russian friends. I think they are nice people. I think they are very civilized. I like the Russians, and I certainly respect Vladimir Putin and the foreign policy of Russia nowadays. Well, as you know, I'm not a socialist, but it's not relevant to talk about here because there is no socialism in Russia. I suppose you know that. And then you say that, as I understand you, you think that I'm a Holocaust denier. Of course I'm not a Holocaust denier. I accept every Holocaust, including the Holocaust that the Americans did against the Indians. They killed 20 million Indians. Do you accept this Holocaust, or are you a Holocaust denier? Including the 6 million Jews being killed in the pogroms in the end of the 18th century. That's according to scientific sources at that time. This was one of the first Holocaust. And the second Holocaust when in 1917-18, 6 million Jews were killed there too. That's not something I invent. That's what is in the press. You can read it. There are many sources where you can read about that, including Encyclopedia Britannica from 1902, where there's a long article about the 6 million Jews that died in the first Holocaust. And I also accept the Holocaust that the Turks did against the Armenians. They killed around 1/3 of the Armenian population. That's one of the most severe Holocausts in world history. And also the Islamic Holocaust against the Hindus in the 16th and 17th century. You have to study Indian history, history of India to understand this, but you can travel to India and talk to Hindu nationalists. But for you, Phyllis, I say, are you a Holocaust denier? If you deny that your grandfathers, they killed 20 million Indians, then you're a Holocaust denier. If you accept it, then I would like to ask you, what kind of compensation do you think that the Indians should have from their killers? Well, that was a question to you. And now I continue from philosophical, who don't want to show her name, but wants to come with a lot of untruthful claims against me. Not very nice. I don't like you, philosophical, so I hope you won't return to my channel. Here we have another person, Creatrix 13. Well, all the other comments to my videos, except for Philip's, they have I would call an interesting character. I can learn from them. Some of them are even funny. So I'll really say thank you to you. And I'm sorry I don't know who you are, Creatrix 13. Remember, you're always welcome in Copenhagen. I would like to drink a cup of coffee with you. Yes, Danes are clearly the most outstanding, profound, beautiful, clever, smart, and happy people of all on the planet. That is obvious. Well, I suppose that was humor, because you've written it under a video I made about this subject. There are some crazy Americans and crazy English people who has made something called research, where they have found out that the most happy country in the world is Denmark. And that is totally bullshit. Of course it is. If this was the truth, these people should have immigrated to Denmark, but certainly they didn't do so. So I hope this was humor, and I totally agree with us that this claim is ridiculous. Sorry, I'm not perfect in English. Can anyone give him a cup of water? That's what Johnny Bravo writes. Well, my voice is not so good, I know it. It's not because I need water, it's because I have a problem in my neck, and I've had this problem for quite many years. So I'm not sure if it will ever disappear. You'll just have to accept my voice the way it is. And I'm sorry, I would like to change my voice to a real professional, deep and powerful voice, but I can't. And now we have philosophical again. Well, before you said I was a Holocaust denier, but before you wrote that, you were telling me about homosexuality. Homosexuality is a sexual orientation. Well, you're absolutely right. It's a sexual orientation. We agree, Phyllis. But then you write, it's no shared philosophy. You're wrong. It is a shared philosophy. Every time there is gay march, gay parade here in Copenhagen and in Washington and in Berlin, then the White House paints with light the White House in the gay colors. The gay march we had a few days ago here in Copenhagen, it was included military personnel in uniforms. And we have a military here being part of NATO. They are run by the politicians in Denmark. We also had police participating in this parade, gay parade. And we had, of course, the American ambassador, who is a high-profile gay man here in Copenhagen. So it is absolutely a shared philosophy. They want to be missionaries. They want to convert us. Still, most of us are heterosexuals. I'm a heterosexual. And they think this is a fault. This is because we have not been liberated. Therefore, they want to liberate us, to show us how nice and how funny, how good it is to be homosexual. That is the idea of the gay march in Denmark and in other countries. Well, homosexuals are popular in the Western countries. You write that they are not popular. That's a lie. When the American ambassador supports a movement here in Denmark, it's because this movement is popular. When the Danish politicians, the Danish television, the Danish police and military support it, don't you think it's because it's popular? Of course it is. I think it was a few years ago, some Muslims threw an egg against one of the demonstrators. Immediately he was arrested and put to jail. So it's not legal to protest against the gay propaganda here in Denmark, because gay people, they have friends on high places. For example, the chairman of the Conservative Party here, and as I told you, the American ambassador. They are both high-profile gay people, and that's why gay people, they are having a campaign, and they always use the Israeli and the American flags. They always pass by the Russian ambassador and throw stones and spit on that, because they're anti-Russians, just like the American Foreign Ministry. Well, gay propaganda is political propaganda. It's propaganda from the Obama administration. That's one of the reasons I hope that this administration will be ended when we have the next election in USA. And now we pass on to number 3. I have my pages here on my computer, and someone called Mojo Willy, he writes, "Idea, Jakob, idea." That is his reply to my video, Why Socialism is Such a Bad Idea. But Willy, I'm not a native English speaker. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Do you mean thumbs up or thumbs down? What is your idea? Please explain, elaborate a little so I understand what you're meaning with your comment here. Dane Stolthed. Well, this is a Dane who immigrated from Denmark many years ago. I don't know what his real name is, but he writes to the same video, "Good video, Jakob, thumbs up." Okay, thank you, Dane Stolte. But then he writes another comment, and it is to Syria. He writes that Syria is out of control. Well, you're right, it is out of control. Would it make sense to invade Syria? Yeah, the terrorists, they have invaded Syria. And the Americans has invaded Syria. And other NATO countries, including Denmark, has invaded Syria. But the Russians, they have not invaded Syria because they have invited by the legal government in Syria. The legal government accepted by the United Nations, led by President Assad, they have invited the Russians to come and help them fight the terrorists. Remember, the terrorists, they are financed by Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and the money and the military instructions and the weapons comes from USA. So the Obama administration is supporting terrorism in Syria, and all you have to do to end the war is stop supporting the terrorists. You do not have to invade because the Syrians do not want you, the Americans, as occupier. Of course they don't want that. They don't want to be another Afghanistan and other Syria and other Iraq. Everywhere the Americans invade, it is a catastrophe, except for the American military industry. So please don't invade, but don't support, don't pay money to the terrorists in Syria. Don't support the terrorists, then the war will end, because Russia and the government forces of Syria, they are much stronger than the terrorists if these terrorists are not supported by USA. I don't like US imperialism, so please stop. Here Dane Stolte, the same man, he talks about his grandparents who went to America in 1880, and he is so sad to hear what happened to his home country, to Denmark, since he left it. Okay, I don't think Denmark has been any worse since 1880. Actually, I believe it's a much better country today. Today it's very close to USA. And actually it is a part of the military scheme of NATO, that means of the American Foreign Ministry. That's why Danish military is also responsible to the war crimes and the terrorism committed by American imperialist forces in foreign countries, in foreign occupied countries. And now we come to my page number 4. Beacon 05. Well, Beacon 05, sorry, I don't know your name. I hope you'll come to Denmark, to Copenhagen. I would like to meet you and discuss with you, because I can see you know a lot about Russia. You know a lot about Russia. You have to understand, I don't speak Russian. I'm not a Russian myself, of course not. I'm a Catholic, and I don't like everything in Russia. And I don't agree with 3 points of what you're writing. Well, actually, I would say you're wrong. Point number 1, here, you say that the idea that only Russian Orthodox can go to heaven, it is not an idea of the Orthodox Church. Well, I'm sorry to say, but you are wrong. This is an idea. And actually, I've found a place on the internet where you can check it out yourself. And I hope I'll be able to find it here. Now it will take a few seconds, then you can see it. This place here, it is about the face of the Russian Orthodox Church. And here they quote the Bible. They quote the Bible about the sacrament of baptism. And here it is said, just a moment, well, you can read it yourself. It's said that only if you are baptized, you will be saved. Only if you're baptized, you will be saved. That comes from the Bible. And that's where the Russian Orthodox has got this idea. And then you say, well, every Christian must believe that, including the Catholic Church. But no, you're wrong again. In the Catholic Church, we have decided at Second Vatican Council from 1962 until 1965 that we don't believe that only Christians can go to heaven. Also Muslims, atheists, Jews, etc., etc., everyone can go to heaven. Of course, it's only up to God. You write that, that's a banality. Of course, only God can decide who goes to heaven. But there is a very radical difference between the Roman Catholic and the Russian Orthodox view of what is the meaning of baptism. Russian Orthodox, they believe that you can only go to heaven, be saved, if you are baptized. Catholic believed you can be saved and go to heaven even if you're not baptized. That is a very important difference. And now we go to another point where I'm afraid you are wrong. And you say here that the Russians, they like American films and American culture. Well, I totally agree. The Russians are not anti-American, not at all. But I believe that most Russians, they like Vladimir Putin too. And Vladimir Putin, he says that Russia is threatened by the American military all around Russia, because these military bases, there are several hundred NATO bases and American bases around Russia. They're made there because they want to prepare for a third world war. That's why the Russians are afraid of the American military, and they want to have a very strong military themselves. I understand that. And then you write that Russians have invaded Ukraine. Well, that's pure nonsense. Russians have never invaded Ukraine. They haven't invaded Crimea. They haven't invaded Donbass or anything else. But in Crimea, where I've been myself, and in Donbass, the majority of people, they are Russians, and they identify with Russian politics and Russian thinking. But they have been living in Ukraine for centuries. There is no Russian invasion going on in Ukraine. That's pure American propaganda and lies. And when you use these lies, it's because you want to put even more American military into Ukraine, because you or who tell these lies, they want to have another war against Russia. And I wouldn't say another war, because First and Second World War, then Russia was allied with the Western powers and against Germany. But I'm afraid if there is a third world war, it will be another way. And now to the last point where you are not right. And it is when you write here that motherland is not a good translation, because I've told to the listeners to my videos that Russians, they don't have a fatherland, they have a motherland. You say that is not true. But the fact is, it is true. You can look it up yourself if you want on the internet. You can see, for example, in Oxford dictionaries, try to find the word motherland, fatherland, and I quote here, Mother Russia is closely connected to the word that Russian speakers use most frequently to mean homeland. Rodina usually translates as motherland. Well, this is written by a language expert in Russia, and I believe that this lady here, she knows more about this question than you do. So I believe her, I don't believe you. But I think you know a lot about Russia, and you're welcome to Denmark. I'd like to discuss other problems and other things we maybe disagree or not disagree about when it comes to Russia. Now we come here to Robert van der Hoek. No, sorry, first Ilya Stahlberg. Ilya Stahlberg, he said that Russians, they didn't consider the human factor. Therefore, Russia went broke and was changed to what it is now. Well, maybe China, they changed from socialism to capitalism in a peaceful way. I think Russia should have been able to do the same. But unfortunately, they were not able to do the same. And here, Robert van der Hoek, he writes, Russia's Jewish weapon to destroy white Europe. Well, this is pure nonsense. Europe is not white. Here in Copenhagen, you will find much more black people and yellow people than you'll find in Moscow. I've been in Moscow a few months back. There are nearly only white people in Moscow. But here in Copenhagen, when you go around in town, you'll meet just as many black and colored people as white people. And that's the same in London, Paris, Berlin, and other European capitals. So you're totally wrong. And you write that Russia is a Jewish weapon. Well, I don't think the Jews has so much influence in Russia. They have a lot of influence in America because they control the television channels and all the medias, and thereby they control the political life. But that's not the same in Russia. Remember, under the Yeltsin government in the 19th, then there were a lot of Jewish oligarchs running the big companies in Russia. They were living in Israel and having their capital in Russia, and they committed a lot of crimes, and therefore they were expelled. They are not living in Russia anymore. So I don't think that the the Jews are running Russia. I know quite a few Russians, and I also know many Russian Jews. And of course there are many Jews in Russia, but they only have an influence like any other citizens. So you're not right. And here, DBP 653, services like YouTube bring people together. Well, you're absolutely right. That's why I like YouTube so much, because YouTube brings people together. That's why I'm sitting here in front of the camera and talking to you. That is so we can learn from each other. And now, Mikkel Kjær Nissen, you should read my book. Well, Mikkel, I have read it already, and I have made a review. Unfortunately, it's in Danish, but you understand Danish, so you can see the review. It's on my Danish YouTube channel. I think your book is wonderful. It's so interesting. I don't agree with you in quite a few things, but the basic viewpoint in your book, I agree with. Denmark is a repressive state, and the reason is because of the Danish religion. Now we come to DBP 653. Well, what is the name? I don't know. But he's a supporter of Donald Trump, just like myself, and that is very good. It's very important that Donald Trump wins the coming election. I don't know if it will happen, but if it doesn't happen, then we'll be in danger of a huge conflict between East and West, between Russia and USA, because Hillary Clinton is a militarist, and she has told many times she wants to pull even more American military around in the bases